Welcome everybody to our week 10 live session. We are down to the wire now. Very quickly before we do go into the assignment or talk about anything before some quick housekeeping here, we do have some very important dates coming up. So next Tuesday, September 14th at 11:59 p.m. CST, as always, the week 10 assignment is due, but also guys, remember, anything from weeks 1 through 10 will be due that day. That is the date that we're shooting for. That one, it's a tad bit more flexible than the final date, which is 2 Sundays after that. But please reach out to us. Let us know what's going on. Talk to us about these assignments. We have very little time to get caught up. As we talked about last week, those of you that want to get caught up will reach out to us. We're going to continue to do the same outreach we've been doing. But for those of you that we cannot get in contact with, we constantly send you messages, leave you voicemails. It's up to you to get back to us. If you guys don't want to catch up, it's on you. Enjoy taking the class over, unfortunately. Not much we can do when you don't have that communication with us. But also, the final day that we will be opening assignments is Monday, September 13th. We do finish off the day at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it is your responsibility, since you missed the assignment, to let us know, hey, Chef, I need this assignment opened up. I have it complete, or I'm going to complete it. Whatever it is, talk to us. Always, always feel free to reach out to us and let us know what's going on. Other than that, we're pretty much ready to get into the assignment here. We do have a quick question. Alexis, go ahead.
Hi, not a question. How you doing, Chef? I did try to email you a couple of times and it kept saying delivered unavailable. So but I got caught up and then I got kind of behind again. So I did try to email you yesterday, but it wouldn't go through. It keeps telling me that it's undeliverable.
So with that, there's a little bit of an issue the way we have our email set up, unfortunately. If you receive a message from us through the class page, it is going to send you an email, but at the bottom of it says this message cannot be replied to or something like that. So if you do see that it's a message that we sent to you through the Escoffier website, make sure that you reply through there, or just start a brand new email. Just it's a little bit of a text at the bottom. It just lets you know this is an email that cannot be replied to. It doesn't have a correct sender, because it takes it from our Escoffier website through to the Salesforce website, which will send you the email through the Google, and it just kind of gets lost. So unfortunately, just try to stick. The best method of communication will always be the class page. Those messages that you receive from us a couple of times a week, reply to those, and those we always receive.
100%.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, any questions on week 9, guys? Very quickly, we'll take about 2, or any comments about the food. India was a wonderful week with a lot of spices. What did you guys think of it?
Got great. I have seen some beautiful work coming through. A lot of people that were really excited about the flavor profiles, that they were a little hesitant at first, but actually really enjoying it. So I loved hearing that.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed was that a lot of you guys, the bread this week was absolutely terrible. Not T-E-R-R, T-E-A-R. You can see that if you were to pick the bread up and go like this, it would rip apart nicely. Last week, we did have some issues with the bread being a little bit hard, where you can see that it was kind of snappy. And this week, you guys really picked it up. We've made bread about 3-4 times this week, so I'm happy to see that you guys are getting comfortable with it. A lot of you, every single time that comes around, I can see the virtual eye rolls, even though none of you have your camera on, where you're just like, oh, bread again. But you guys have really got it down. I'm super happy from what I've seen so far with the assignment in terms of the bread. The dal, the kofta, everything has come together super, super nicely this week. My reviews have just been super, super quick, because there's not much to talk about, because you guys have really picked it up. Again, urge you guys, go take a look at your weeks 1, 2, possibly even 3 assignments and compare it to what we did this week. You guys are going to be blown away by how much progress you guys have made.
Exactly. All right. So let's hop into this. Let's get ready for week 10, Japan. Obviously, what's the first thing that comes to our mind when we think about Japanese cuisine? What's one of the first things?
Sushi.
Sushi. Yes, I'm hearing.
Fried rice.
What I can't.
Fried rice.
Fried rice. Yeah. Japanese cuisine does have fried rice as well, but we really want to think about that sushi, right? Sushi, ramen. This is kind of, sushi is what Japan is worldwide known about, right? When you think about 15 years ago, walking down a random street in a downtown, would we expect to have sushi restaurants? No, but now they're pretty much everywhere. So what does that mean? Demands, flavor profiles changing, right? The world is getting smaller and smaller and bigger. So let's hop right in. We're going to not actually be rolling sushi this week, but we're going to make a riff off of it, which is going to be a sushi bowl, which is very similar to what sometimes people are being also sold as poke bowls as well these days. Very similar concept. We're taking fresh fresh meat, seafood or fish, or in this case, we're going to be using imitation crab sticks so that we can make sure that we have some nice, safe seafood for everybody. But if you can get your hands on some beautiful tuna, sushi grade tuna, highly suggest it. So that without further ado, let's hop in and check this out. Sushi rice. So we're going to be going into this later with Chef Jerry, the art of a little bit more and deeper into the art of sushi rice and the importance, I'm sure. If not, we'll talk about that. But in the world of sushi, all right, first and foremost, you have no idea how long it takes to become a master, to even touch fish or rice. I know that sounds wild, but this is how it starts an apprenticeship with learning sushi. We're gonna go dive deeper into that, but let's hit this up first. So sushi rice, really important. This is going to be a short grain sushi rice, much like those short grains rices that we use for risotto and paella. We're looking for another one. This is going to be used for short grain sushi rice. It's gonna have a different starch content, all right? So you're gonna take out 1 cup of that, and what you're gonna do is cover that with cool water, swish it around, right? Just use your hand and get all of that chalky white area powder off, all right? Strain it, do it again, strain it, do it again, strain it, do it again. Keep rinsing. Now, the important thing is actually making sure that you're really agitating, not just putting that rice in a strainer and rinsing it. That's not going to do the job. You need to put that in a bowl, really use your hand to get extra that gluten off and throw it out, okay? It's going to have a huge impact on your finished texture of your rice if you don't do this, all right? You want that water to run clear. Next, 1 cup of water, 1 cup to rice, bring that to a boil and reduce to simmer, okay? Cover, let that go for 15 minutes. Kill the heat, right? Remove it from the heat source and let it just sit there, okay? Do not touch, do not fluff it with a fork, just let it sit, all right? While that has been sitting, what you're gonna do is make your actual rice dressing, essentially, right? Your rice dressing, which is your rice seasoning, is gonna consist of rice wine vinegar, white sugar, and salt, all right? What you're gonna do is you take that, mix it in, right? Low heat, just to get that salt and sugar and dissolve in the vinegar. Now you've got your seasoning condiment, right? What you're gonna do is take that rice, okay? Put that in a larger bowl and sprinkle about 1/4, just, you know, if we're only using it, it's about 5 tablespoons total of liquid you're gonna have. You're just gonna be using about a tablespoon, a little bit more than a tablespoon. So if you just wanna take that tablespoon out, sprinkle it over, right? And get that to combine gently, all right? Then you're gonna take that next little bit of your rice mixture, again, sprinkle it over and gently combine. You don't wanna be vigorously mashing this, right? You want that sushi still to remain and have those grains intact, all right? Once you've got that, all of that will fully absorb, it's gonna start taking on a shiny, glossy hue to that rice because it's gonna change, right? It's gonna be absorbing this rice wine and sugar and salt. Next up, this is where it gets really simple. You've done basically all of the majority there. That's the cooking portion for this sushi rice bowl. Next is gonna be the topping. So what does that mean? Garnish, right? That means important knife cuts. We're gonna be hounding you on this. So for your crab sticks, you've got those 2 ounces of them shredded, a half of a carrot in julienne, half of each of cucumber thinly sliced, same with avocado, a nori sheet, Also in julienne, I highly recommend using scissors for this. Yep, you're gonna just get the smallest, closest, and most efficient. Your knife is just not gonna cut through that unless it's actually in a roll, or you've got really fresh nori wrappers. They're just gonna be brittle. So use scissors to get those nice thin seeds, and then either black or white sesame seeds. You're also gonna make a quick little topping, which is just spicy mayonnaise. The secret's out, guys. Spicy mayo on your spicy tuna. It's pretty much just mayo and sriracha, all right? So you're gonna make a nice little dressing with that, and have some fun. And then you're gonna really focus on plating, attention to detail here, right? Remember, the only thing cooking rice, so the focus is going to be your knife cuts and how you present this. So I did just pull up a few examples. Now, there's no right or wrong. Think about presentation, right? How are you going to fan out that avocado? Are you going to do half moons on your cucumbers? Are you going to peel your cucumbers? Are you going to seed them, right? Yes, I would suggest yes, right? Thinking about the customer, what do they want, right? Maybe you're going to do an avocado rose here. Obviously, this is pretty standard, pretty simple. Here's another version, as I told you, poke bowls. Pretty much the same concept. We've got these julienne carrots, avocado, cucumber, your crab sticks or your fresh tuna, your nori sheets, little salmon in this case. So think about presentation, take into consideration how you're balancing that, and make sure that you have a large enough bowl that you're actually going to be able to eat this. All right. Does anybody have questions regarding the sushi rice bowl? I see a hand up for Eric.
Yeah, I just got a question on the crab stick. So, what type of crab? Like, I don't understand. What does it mean by crab stick?
Okay, let me pull it up for you right now. Let me get this. So, crab stick is it's imitation crab stick. And let me just get this for you. It's actually funny story. Imitation fish came out of Asia. For when there was a demand for people living away from the sea to get fresh seafood. So they press this. So crab stick is basically generally made from hake,
Chef, you muted yourself accidentally.
Thank you. Crab sticks will look like this. They are imitation crab that is made out of fish. Usually hake or another pollock or white meat that's then all ground up and compressed together. A little dye is added, but this is how you're going to see it. You'll basically get it in a at the grocery store where your cured or smoked meats fish are, and you'll see it in any form like this. It's already been cooked. It's
yeah, okay, yeah, I've seen that at the store.
Yep, that's what.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that at the store. Okay, yeah, because the imitation crab I've seen is just usually like lump or something. It's like kind of shredded, but I've seen that too. Well, so can we cut that with? Go ahead.
Yeah. No.
Go ahead. Okay, so can we cut this with our knife, or do we have to? You said shred or something.
Yep. In the recipe, you can shred it. You can also cut it if you feel like. But a lot of the time that imitation crab stick does kind of shred. It has the tendency because it tries to mimic what crab meat is like, which would have these pieces of muscle. So you can shred it, you can cut it. I would say see what your knife can handle and see how it holds up. Take one piece of the crab stick and run your knife over it. See how it handles. Otherwise, you might want to just go back onto shredding it.
Okay, right on. And then for the nori sheet, I don't even know what that is.
Okay, let me show you really. All right, so nori is seaweed. And there are going to be some great easy ways. You can buy a larger pack, but you can also get it in like the single serving size. Let me see. I'm going to sure that we've got two versions of this. But nori is a type of seaweed. So again, what's going on sushi? Seaweed. That's how we wrap up those rolls. That dark green, almost black looking paper that's wrapped around your sushi. That's nori. So this is what it looks like. All righty. So let's get a visual here. This is what your nori looks like. You can see it comes in kind of green or darker, more black hue. You'll find them largely in these large format packages. However, if you don't want to invest in a large package, nori sheet, I think individual. These usually, yes, exactly. You can get these, they're small little packages. They're usually have oil and salt on them. But I know Trader Joe's, for example, sells like a small little individual package. It's like 99 cents. So it might be a better cost option than buying a whole bag of full sheets of nori. Either one of these will do. The only difference is, like I said, the ones that generally come in this small package have usually a bit of oil added to it. So it's they're greasier and they're saltier. Your plain old nori sheet regular is going to be just toasted, plain old nori that doesn't have any extra oil and is a little bit more fragile and crispy. Does this help, Eric?
Yeah. That's so crispy. We're not like wetting it or nothing like that, right?
Nope.
Crispy. It goes in like crispy, right?
It's gonna go. It's gonna be dry and it's gonna be a small amount. You're just gonna slice that with your scissor and sprinkle it on top like a little garnish.
Okay, right on, chef. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sharice.
These are fine.
Bingo. You're all good.
Two different ones. I just grabbed them.
Yeah, give a taste test, maybe make some own. Hey, and if you all decide that you want to go a little extra this week, obviously, if you get those big sheets, give it a hand, see what you can do if you want to give your hand at a roll. All right. It takes a lot of art, practice, and time. And the first few ones are going to be pretty messy and ugly, but once you get a roll of it, you'll be going good. So you might want to give it a go.
Super fun though.
Excellent. All righty. I see you hiding behind there, little Sharice. All righty. All right, class, let us hop on next into one of my favorite dishes. This dish is absolutely unreal. Tare katsudan, all right? Tare katsudan. All right, let's just first and foremost say, anything that you're deep frying or shallow frying and serving up with soy sauce and umami bombs and green onions and eggs and onions and rice, you're gonna be in heaven, all right? So a few things to note here. First and foremost, pork. If you do not eat pork, do not worry. We've got options, right? You're either gonna take a chicken breast or you're gonna take a turkey breast to execute this. All right, those are gonna be your two options for this. It's gonna be your best, closest to the flavor profile and consistency, and you're gonna be able to pound that meat down to about 1/2 of an inch thick. So you're gonna wanna first get your center cut boneless pork chops, boneless, right? That's how you often see, sometimes they're called butterfly cut. They're gonna be already split in half. It's a normal pork chop that's been split. You wanna finish splitting that cut and then pound that down, right? When we're pounding meat, we're tenderizing it, right? So we wanna make sure that it's thin enough so that it's gonna cook quickly and that it's tender. Salt and pepper, right? Then you're gonna set up your 3-stage breading station, right? Flour, egg wash, and panko breadcrumbs. So if you do not know what panko breadcrumbs are as of yet, do not use regular breadcrumbs. If you do, you're not gonna get the same texture or crunch. And especially don't use any Italian style seasoning, all right, breadcrumbs. As you can see, panko has a lot of texture here. You can see that it's pretty coarse and large. It's not like those really teeny small, almost like cornmeal size, what we think about breadcrumbs when you get from that Progresso brand or whatever, right? Any regular old breadcrumb brand, that's not what we're looking for. Panko is Japanese style breadcrumbs. It's gonna have a different lightness, airiness, and crunch, and it's gonna coat in a completely different format. All right, you're gonna get a lot more crevices and where that crispiness is just gonna fry up, okay? So hopping back in, that's gonna be your, instead of breadcrumbs, you're gonna have panko. And like I said, if you cannot find panko, just get a regular, either make your own breadcrumbs and try to keep them a little bit more coarse, or get regular no flavor breadcrumbs. You don't want anything else coming into this flavor profile. All right, bread those cutlets and next heat that oil. If you want to check your oil temp to know when it's ready, just throw a breadcrumb in there. And once it sizzles, you're ready to go. Now, here's a key thing, right? Remember what we learned about when we're deep frying, shallow frying, everything, or even just searing in a pan with a little shallow fry. You want to make sure that when you place your meat, you go away from you, right? You never want to place your meat and then come forward. You're going to burn yourself. That oil is going to splash at you. You want the oil splashing that way, all right? Obviously, the goal is to not have any splashing oil, but be gentle. Lay that down and let the end of that chop fall away from you, not towards you. All right. Now, once we've got that going on, we're going to fry that for 4 to 6 minutes, depending upon how thickly you've cut that down. Get it nice and golden brown, like we've been talking about. We want golden brown. We don't want spots of under fried and then really dark brown. We want golden brown, even all over. Okay. Flip that, cook that to another 4 to 6 minutes, and then place on a paper towel lined with a plate lined with paper towels. Get that excess grease to drip off a little bit, right? Next up, what we're going to be doing, we are going to make your dashi stock, all right, or chicken stock, okay? Dashi stock, normally we had the recipe for the dashi, but basically dashi is kombu, which is another type of seaweed that is made to is used to make a really sea-focused aromatic broth. If you don't have kombu and bonito flakes, you can just use chicken stock. All right, chicken stock is going to be your easiest. It's going to be your fastest and quickest way to go about that, and especially if you can't source out that kombu and bonito flakes. We take your dashi, your soy sauce, your chicken stock. Let's just call it your stock, your soy sauce, mirin, and sugar and onion. All right, all of those ingredients. You are going to bring that to a boil and reduce to a simmer. Now, for mirin, if you do not know what mirin is a Japanese condiment. If you cannot find mirin, which is basically a sweet wine condiment, you can take that rice vinegar that you're going to use right here, and this will save you as well. You can take that rice vinegar and add sugar to it, all right? Because mirin is sweeter than rice vinegar. You don't want this to be acidic. You don't want to be dropping a bunch of vinegar into your tarekatsu don, right? Because you're going to be using 2 tablespoons. You want that a bit sweet. So add a little bit of sugar to that. That's how you can modify that in case you cannot locate mirin.
Chef, very quickly, and for those of you, if you don't know, mirin actually does have alcohol content to it. So if you don't want any type of alcohol around your food, just do what Chef said and just shy away from the mirin. Use the rice wine vinegar with some sugar, and you'll be all squared away.
Exactly. Thank you, Chef. So you're going to reduce that to a simmer. You're going to slice those pork chops about 1-inch strips thick, and then place that. Now, I know this sounds crazy, guys, right? You're thinking, we just went to all this work frying this and making this beautiful, crispy, golden brown pork or chicken cutlet. Why are we going to make this wet? Well, I will challenge you this and say, where else do we have something that's been fried and then smothered? What other dishes can you think of?
Country fried steak.
Yep, country fried
I
steak.
say the coffee.
Oh, okay. Was that Chef Jerry or was that somebody else? All right, we got country fried steak. What else? What else other than country fried steak?
I say kofta. We fried it and then we rolled it in the sauce.
The kofta from the kofta from the India, Simon, we did sear it off and then put it into a sauce. Correct?
Okay, great. What else? This is an Italian dish I want to get you guys thinking about.
Any braised meats?
Well, when we're braising, we're not really frying or developing. We're not frying first. Remember, we want to talk about frying and getting that crispy, right? We're doing a 3-stage breading.
Chicken parmesan.
Yeah, there we go. Chicken parmesan, eggplant parmesan, right? All of those have been fried and then covered in a sauce. All right. So do not let this steer you away from thinking we worked so hard to get this texture. There is meaning and reasoning behind this. It's going to add flavor. It does add texture. You're never going to get that without frying it first. Okay. So you're going to place that sliced pork chop back into that pan and whip those eggs up, right? 4 eggs beaten. Remember, fully whipped. We don't want to see any whites in there. Okay. No whites, no yolks, everything fully emulsified. And then you're going to pour that over, right? Over those pork chops, and then turn heat to high, put a lid on that, cover for 30 seconds until that's done, and boom, you are ready to rock and roll. Serve over rice. You're definitely going to want to add rice and definitely garnish with a heavy hand of green onions. It's just scrumptious. It's tasty. It's delicious. It's umami bomb. It's one of my favorite surprising dishes of this course that I thought, you know what? I hadn't had a lot of tarikatsu don in my life, and this kind of changed my perception of it. So I hope you all enjoy it. Does anybody have any questions regarding tarikatsu don? All righty. Chef Jerry, let's hear it.
All right, I'm up. All right, so very quickly, guys, I do want to share with you guys just some pictures from some old assignments over here. Here we have the tarikatsu don, just beautiful, simple plating here. There's not much to it, but also take a look at how they took care of the negative space here. They used a little bit of soy sauce with the chopsticks just to make it so that the plate isn't so empty. Like the chef said, a lot of green onions over the top with this one. We have some different knife cuts here for the sushi rice, but I pulled this one just because I love the cucumbers here. There's so much you can do with this. Just because the recipe says julienne or whatever, it says slice, I think. You can go whichever way direction. Really hone into those knife skills this week. This person did this with a mandolin, so do shy away from using that. Like we did say during the beginning of the course, use your knife to get the beautiful knife cuts. But take a look at the matchstick carrots over here, the avocado. Eric, this is what you're looking for when it says shredded for the crab stick. So that's one of the things I wanted to show there. Over here, we have this one, which has the rice at the bottom, kind of layered the avocado on top of it, shingled it, had a little flower of the cucumber with the carrots up there. This one over here, this person made sushi as well. So you can see these little sushi rolls down here. Just a bunch of cool stuff that you can do with this. This is a week that you can get super, super creative. So I want you guys to do that. If you want to take on the extra challenge and make some sushi rolls, go for it. Put those in there. Even if they don't come out perfect, we want to see it. It's okay. And we'll talk about how long it actually takes to become a sushi chef. Absolutely, Vladimir, do not cross your chopsticks and do not leave them inserted into food like this. Very, very bad manner. But we're going to get into that. We are going into 3 straight weeks of Asian culture. So we're going to be talking a lot about chopsticks. But yeah, just wanted to show you guys. And then take a look at this one over here. They got this beautiful avocado rose here. They did some cool stuff over here with the green onion, with some ice water, just cool stuff that you guys can all do. So this is what we're expecting when it comes to this week's assignment. And pay attention to the bowl sizes. Everybody's using a larger surface area bowl so that we can fit all of that stuff in there. Just because if the top of your bowl is too small, you're going to be very, very cluttered, and we're not going to be able to see the rice. Remember, guys, we want to be able to see that sushi rice. We want to make sure that we're not overcooking it, that we're not, it's not soggy rice, it's not undercooked, whatever it is. We want to see it. We want to see every single one of these things. But let's get into Japan itself. So where are they? This one here. So with Japan, I have a bunch of cool pictures. Where is Japan? So we're kind of coming from, we've been moving eastward, right? So unfortunately, I don't have a map of it, but I have where Japan is. So Japan is just east of China. You're going to see it's a nice little island here. It is going to be west of us. So if you guys come towards me in California and then head further out west, you would get to Hawaii and then eventually Japan. It's just a cluster of islands, which we will see right now. But the population of Japan is 127 million people, so they have about a third of the people that we have here in the US. Japan, it's a region that is very, very seasonal when it comes to their cooking. In Japan, you're going to see that we've talked about it all term, but here we can pretty much have produce all year round. My market looks exactly the same. But what you're going to see with Japanese food is that in the winter, they're going to be eating foods that are grown in the winter. In the summer, their foods are going to be primarily summer-based. Japanese food is as much about the preparation and presentation as it is about the food itself. So they don't really mess with the food too much. They like their food in just the most basic state. But that doesn't mean that it's bad food. It tastes amazing. But they do go into that extra preparation so that these ingredients just get highlighted. While we think of only 4 annual seasons here in the US and around the world, Japanese chefs do consider dozens of different seasons and carefully select ingredients that are in their prime with flavors that represent that specific period. So they have kind of right in between summer and what comes after fall. They'll have that specific period where they do specific food that only is in between that 1 month, for example. So it's really interesting. You're going to see that there's a lot of simplicity when it comes to the food. They let the ingredients just speak for themselves. And if we take a look at some of the things here, so we just showed all of those sushi rice bowl. If you remember, what we're going to be doing this week is just putting ingredients at the top. So that is something that they're going to be doing quite a bit, just using things as a garnish without any seasoning. We're going to be using the carrots, the cucumbers and stuff. And because they're using such just quality ingredients, the flavor profile is just super elevated. Courses include a few small items, often fresh and with simple flavors. Japanese chefs will work with top quality ingredients and do as little to the food as possible to bring out just that beautiful color and flavor that you're going to see. We can see just kind of some of the things that they have right here. Just a lot of basic things. So you have cucumber as well as a couple of other things that I have no clue. This looks like an eggplant over here. But it's just really, really highlighting the ingredient. We talked about molecular gastronomy in Spain. That's something that you're not going to see here because that is changing the structure, the flavor profile. It's changing everything about the ingredient, and these people are not about that. Some key ingredients that you're going to see or flavors that we're going to see. One of them is going to be garlic. Garlic is a very, very savory ingredient that we're going to see in this region. You'll see that many foods are going to be either seared or boiled or eaten raw. Minimally seasoned, umami is a word that actually comes from here. So it's a rich flavor profile characteristic of Japanese food. It can be enhanced by using just a few ingredients. Not only meat, meat isn't the only thing that you can consider umami. And that's a misconception. Everybody thinks about vegetarian food or vegan food not having that umami bomb to it, but that's not the case. You're going to see that you can get that same flavor profile. Obviously, it's not going to be the exact same as meat, but we can get that umami just from using soy sauce, miso, mushrooms, seaweed, bonito flakes, and bonito broth, but those are actually fish-based as opposed to being vegetarian. But there's a lot of different ways to get that just meaty umami flavor. The way I like to categorize umami, if you've ever had like just a really good steak or just anything that you feel that pinch at the back of your cheeks where you bite into and you're just like, good, you'll feel it right back over here. That's that umaminess to it. And you'll get it with soy sauce, with mushrooms, with all that stuff. Another thing that you're going to see, any food in which glutamic acid occurs naturally or after cooking, aging, or fermenting is considered umami, and that's how you draw out that flavor. In Japan, we're going to see a lot of different condiments. So to add a contrast to the food, simple condiments are often added to enhance the flavor. So you'll see a lot of light dipping sauces. We're going to see a lot of citrus here, miso, wasabi, pickles, soy sauce are going to be included in the course. So those are going to come out as just kind of condiments onto the table. One thing that Chef talked about is in becoming a sushi chef, the amount of time that it takes is ridiculous. And I'll show you guys a quick video of a documentary that I would love for you guys to watch on Netflix. We'll show that in a bit though. But apprentice chefs sometimes work in restaurants for up to 10 years before they are allowed to handle any fish or meat. During that time, they'll bus tables, they'll serve meals, they'll do manual tasks like making rice. Even then, rice is one of those things that it's going to take about 5, 8, 9 years before you're able to touch it. They don't mess around when it comes to their rice and their meat. Still, these apprentices earn decent wages, and in Japan, it is actually considered an insult to tip. So do be mindful of that. Never ever leave a tip while you're over there. Japanese cuisine has a much higher ratio of plant-based foods than is typically here in the US, but it's still very hard to eat completely vegetarian. Does anybody know why? Why would it be very difficult to have a vegetarian meal in Japan? Think of the geography of it.
A lot of fish.
Cattle.
A lot of fish because it's an island, so it is completely submerged in water, surrounded. Sorry, not submerged. It's not Atlantis. It's completely surrounded by water. Sorry. So because of that, you're going to see that it's going to be very difficult to really have a completely vegetarian diet because most things are going to be cooked in either fish broth or you're going to see that they're sprinkled with bonito flakes, which is just shaved fish. Most meals in Japan are served with plain white rice, and they'll have this breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We might just think of rice as something that you have for lunch or dinner, not so much for breakfast, but these people are eating it all day. A lot of pickled vegetables that we're going to see. I did have that picture up. Let me bring it right back up for you guys. Right over here. So these are all just different pickled vegetables here. So you're going to have daikon radishes, cabbage, cucumbers are very common to be pickled, either pickled with vinegar or brined and fermented. Fermentation is one of those things that's very important for preservation. There's different ways to go about it. With a traditional pickle, you would just be using vinegar, but with fermentation, you could do a salt cure and just allow it to sit. And it's going to create a similar flavor profile to the pickling. Another thing that you're going to see is that soups will be served with every meal here as well. One of the key things to pickling, to preservation, is just your gut health. Anything preserved is going to be really, really good for your stomach. So do be mindful of that. It is one of the things that I drink pretty much every single live session. I have kombucha, which I'm not a huge fan of. Honestly, anything pickled or fermented, flavor profile wise, for me, it's just not it. I grew up in a very old school Mexican household with my grandma, and if you look at Mexican food, there's not much pickling or fermentation to it. You do use lime or lemon pickles for stuff, but nothing that really gets left aside. And if you try to cook a steak for my grandma, she's going to cook it to 200 degrees and tell you that it's still raw. Absolutely nothing is pink or red or anything that looks raw at all. Comes from very, very old school ranch in Mexico, and they're just super scared of like anything that's going to get you sick because they're so far away from hospitals, right? Just very quickly wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, fermentation is something that you're going to see very, very often here. A lot of things, something that you're going to see here as well is soups and stocks. They're typically going to be made with bonito flakes, which are dried skipjack tuna that has either been salted, smoked, dehydrated, and then is sliced very, very thinly. It adds a nice, beautiful umami flavor. I do have somewhere around here. There we go. These guys right here. So this is actually looks like tree bark, but it's actually fish that has just been super, super thinly sliced. And these are just going to add a lot of flavor to anything that you put them on top of. It's used as a garnish quite a bit. You'll see it on top of soups and everything. Kelp is another thing that you'll see, which is kombu. It's a vegetarian version to get that umami. Miso soup, another thing that you will see served with Japanese food, but they don't consider this a soup. Funny enough, it's actually considered a beverage. And there's going to be different flavors and colors that come from the miso. You will see it from white all the way to a super deep red. Miso is a fermented soybean paste. The longer it ferments, the deeper and stronger that flavor profile gets. So for me, I'll stick to the lighter colored ones, not so much the dark ones. I don't think I have a picture of it, unfortunately. I do not. Anyways, let's continue on here. So Japanese cuisine is going to consist of a lot of grains, vegetables, and fish. Those are kind of the three characteristics of it. Meat is something that is more uncommon. But you might be thinking, Chef, what about Wagyu? Isn't that coming from Japan? And it is, and we'll talk about that very shortly. But it is something that is relatively new. So the cuisine here in Japan is high sodium and low fat. As you see, a lot of soy sauce is being used here. So it is actually considered a very healthy cuisine, though. Ginger is another one of these common spices that you're going to see in Japanese cuisine. Other ingredients that you're going to see a lot are going to be soy sauce, sake, or mirin, both which are rice wines. You're going to see a lot of vinegar and a lot of salt. Tokyo is actually the largest city in the world by population. So just single city. It has 37.4 million people in it. It is known to be a very clean and safe city. The second largest city is actually going to be Mexico City. But as we saw during that live session, Mexico City is built a little bit different than Tokyo. Let me actually bring up a picture of Tokyo. With Tokyo, what you're going to see is that it's actually very, very tall. Let me share my screen with you guys once again over here. If you guys remember back to the live session that we had with Mexico, Mexico City was just super wide in terms of the landscape. So it covered a lot more mass. And that's why it was considered the biggest city in terms of population, because it had so much room to live, right? But with Tokyo, what you're going to see is a lot of skyscrapers. Recently went to Chicago, and Chicago has so many just skyscrapers as well, which was super interesting to me. I've been around downtown LA so many times, but Chicago was just completely different. And you're going to see that over here in Tokyo as well, but there's a lot of very, very tall buildings. You're going to see that Tokyo is a lot smaller in terms of the landmass, but instead of building outward, they just build upward. And you'll see that these buildings are actually very safe in terms of earthquakes and stuff. These people have really figured it out. how to just really keep a high population, just super dense in this region. One of the major things that we've been talking about throughout this whole term is religion. So with Japan comes Buddhism, something that we haven't really touched on too much yet. But Buddhism actually appeared in Japan in the 6th century and became the dominant religion here. The other dominant religion is Shinto. Buddhism and Shinto are both vegetarian because of the religion and their vegetarian diet. Meat consumption dropped off dramatically. Even fish was actually forbidden by the Buddhists, so they didn't even touch that. As we do just head really, really back in time during the 1800s, Japanese started to adapt some meat into their dishes to kind of westernize their cuisine. Sukiyaki, which is beef simmered in sake and sweet soy ponzu, is a dish that became very popular. I believe I do have a picture of that. This guy. Let me see. We'll continue to share the screen here. Here we go. So it's this guy here. So it's beef simmered with sake and sweet soy sauce. It looks very similar to like a ramen, which we'll talk about very shortly. And tonkatsu, which is breaded fried pork cutlet. What does that sound like? Sounds like what we're making this week. So you'll see it right over here. This one doesn't actually have the sauce over the top of it, but it's just this beautiful, beautiful cutlet. So I did say that Japan was something, it was a region that you don't see much meat consumption in, right? So let's talk about that. So ironically, right, Japan is known for beef, their Wagyu cattle or their Kobe beef. Does anybody know what it is or what kind of characterizes it, what makes it super, super special? All right, so what it is, it's this very, very tender, super marbled up Japanese Wagyu beef. It's recognized worldwide for its extremely high quality, which must meet stringent industry standards. And with this, we've talked about it before. We talked about the AOC. We've talked about a couple of other ones where they really check the quality of these ingredients in France, in Italy, in Spain. So Japan has another similar thing here, but what they're doing it for is for the beef here. So what they check for is the marble content. They smell it. They check the color, the brightness, the texture, how firm the meat is, the quality of the fat. And we can see it right over here. Just this is a tenderloin. Tenderloin is something that you never see have this much fat content. It's usually this very beautiful, just large piece of very meaty meat. No fat to it, but take a look at how fattening this is, or just that beautiful marbling here. You can see it right over here as well. All that marbling. So what that does is it makes it so that it makes the meat super, super tender. Let's see another one over here. So yeah, A5 Wagyu is just the best thing that you're ever going to have in your life. But what does Wagyu mean? So Wagyu refers to any cattle that is raised in Japan or in the Japanese way. The word wa means Japanese, yu means cow. So just Japanese cow. Other regions where Wagyu will come from is from Kobe. So that's kind of the difference between Kobe beef and Wagyu. It's just a little bit of a subcategory. You have Omi, Sushi, Iwate, Hida, just a couple of other regions here. There's about 10 of them, if not more. So one of the things, though, with Japan is that we did say that it's just a cluster of islands, right? So what that means is there's actually not a lot of room for raising livestock because of the amount of islands that it is. So Wagyu cattle is actually raised free range. It's massaged and it's fed beer and sake. So they'll massage them with beer and then they'll get them nice and drunk. This results in super tender, well marbled beef that is the most expensive in the world. So yeah, so going back to, so we talked about that tenderloin, just a lot of marbling in the middle of it, which is something that you don't typically see. Now, let's get into the alcohol that's being fed to these guys, sake. So the sake is the most popular Japanese alcoholic beverage. It is a rice wine that is made from fermenting certain types of rice. Not the same rice that they eat, though. Let me actually show you guys a picture of the different rices here. Right over here. So with this here, you can see that the food rice looks a little bit different from their sake rice. The process is similar to making beer. Sake is actually a ceremonial beverage. The higher quality one is going to be served cold, and then the lower quality one is going to be served warm. You'll see here that these guys have that germ inside, and then the food rice doesn't actually have it anymore. So it's just a little bit different. That's kind of how you can categorize, or how you can tell. This one's a little bit more see-through. And you'll see it once you guys get your sushi rice. You'll be able to kind of tell the difference there. But they serve it in these little boxes. I guess I don't have the picture for it. But it's served in a square box called a masu. When poured, the sake is slightly overfilled to spill over into it. And this is how the host will show their generosity. So it's a very social drink in this region. Another thing that we talked about with our assignment here is mirin. And mirin is very similar to sake, but it does have less alcohol content and a lot more sugar. That is why if you're gonna omit it from your recipe, make sure that you add some sugar to your rice wine vinegar. And with this, you'll see that it's more used as a seasoning and not so much a drink. So getting to China, Japan, and Southeast Asia is where you start to really see the balancing of flavors in these cuisines. So think about the mirin and the sake. They work so well with the soy sauce that they're kind of balancing each other out. You have the saltiness, the sour, the sweetness. So all of it just really comes together, and as opposed to kind of contradicting each other, they just kind of elevate one another. If you think of sushi rice with mirin and rice wine vinegar, you're balancing the sweetness and the acid coming through. Let me actually go ahead and see if I can bring up a picture of a masu here for you guys. Yeah, so it's, where did you guys go? So it kind of goes like this. So they can serve it like this. There we go. This is how it goes. So they'll pour it, they'll have their little glass right on the inside, and they'll overflow it just to show that they're super nice to you and just generous, right? As opposed to just kind of cheating you of a little bit of your sake there. So some famous dishes from Japan are going to be the tonkatsu, which is a Japanese dish that consists of panko breaded deep fried pork cutlets, which we are going to be doing this week a little bit. Very similar, served with either a dashi or a miso-based sauce, rice, and some vegetables. We're going to have soba, which is, that's udon. Soba noodles, which are Japanese buckwheat noodles. They are just kind of a contrast to the thick udon noodles. They're going to be served either chilled or with a dipping sauce or as a hot noodle soup. Where are those guys? Here we go. So it's these guys here. So you're going to see that these are very thin compared to the udon noodles, which we'll see a little bit later. Okonomiyaki, it's a savory pancake, which is made with wheat flour batter. The name is derived from the word okonomi, which means what you like, and yaki meaning cooked. So basically, what do you want cooked? So what it is and the way they cook this guy is it this guy here? Yes, it is. So the way they do this is it's pretty much similar to, you can think of like an omelet bar when you stay in a hotel here in the US and they give you that free breakfast ticket. You go, there's a guy with his pans and everything, got all kinds of stuff in front of him, and he'll be like, what do you want? And you're like, give me some of that, some of that, some of that, and some of that, and some of that. And that's basically what they do here. Very similar thing. This one is just, it's a pancake made with wheat flour as opposed to the egg. Another thing that is very famous, there's a soup in Japan. Can anybody tell me what it's called? You'll see it in a lot of anime as well. No, not miso. It's got noodles in it. There's instant versions of it everywhere. I have a couple in my pantry too.
Is it po?
Oh, that's Vietnamese.
That's
Pho.
Vietnamese.
There's usually, like, we could get into a
There it
war
is.
over this ramen, right?
There it is, ramen.
During
Yes,
study hall,
ramen.
we'll get into the war of who's Maruchan and who's top, and we'll talk about that later. So place a pause on that, everybody, and let's hit ramen.
So ramen, it's a popular Japanese dish with the translation of pooled noodles. So it consists of Chinese wheat noodles served in a meat or fish-based broth. You'll see a bunch of other flavors with it. You can have soy or miso. You have sliced pork, nori, scallions, all kind of stuff on top of it. I should have a picture of it. That it? Nope, that is the sukiyaki. This is the ramen. I think I had it backwards. Yep. So yeah, so you'll see all kinds of stuff over the top of it. Just really, you can go crazy with it. It's just basically a soup, but it's so delicious. Bunch of places where they have like kind of spicy ramen challenges. I would urge you guys not to try them. But yeah, ramen is just massive. That is still not it either. I guess I don't have an actual picture of it. I thought I did. Sorry.
I'll pull one up, Chef, right now.
All right, perfect.
This is what we're looking for. You will often see it topped with, you know, the classic 90, I think they call it the 90-minute egg now or something, a 90-degree egg. I forgot was the catch-all phrase that they were doing. But basically it is a poached egg, excuse me, a medium boiled egg. Sometimes there'll be soy sauce eggs, oftentimes loaded with pork. You've got the beautiful noodles that are made with using alkaline. The reason why they're spongy and have a little bit of bounce is because there's an alkalinity to it, which gives it that springiness to those ramen style noodles. You'll also, these are actually fish cakes. These are pressed fish with food coloring added. You might find meatballs. You might find, as Chef mentioned, pretty much any type of topping, from greens to mushrooms, pickled little bits, of course, scallions, eggs, meat, tofu. That's pretty much what you're going to be getting for. And oftentimes those broths are cooked for hours and hours and hours on end. All right, back at you, Chef.
All righty, perfect. Yeah, there's actually a place here in downtown LA. There's like a little Tokyo, and that place gets packed. The wait on the weekends is up to an hour and a half, 2 hours. They bring you this giant bowl of it. It's super delicious, but it's just something that's like so sought after here in LA. So let's talk a little bit about the etiquette. So we were talking about the chopsticks when we were taking a look at the assignments from some old students there. And there is 3 million rules on how to use your chopsticks. We're not going to get into all of them here. We'll slowly cover a couple of them as we do go through as we go through Japan, China, and Southeast Asia. But to hit all of them, it's pretty much impossible. So in Japan, they're going to eat very low to the ground on cushions at low tables, just kneeling. The guest of honor is going to sit further away from the entrance. And at casual meals, the men will sit cross-legged and the women will sit with their legs to one side. So this place here, it's not the host that actually signals the start of the meal. It's actually the guest of honor. They're the first ones to tell everybody that they can start eating. With Japanese food, you're going to see that there's so whenever you eat a soup, there's basically 2 different ways that you go about it. You either go down to your bowl or you bring your bowl up to you. In Japan, they bring their bowl up to them. Completely custom there. And one thing that you're going to see is that slurping is amazing. You want to be slurping on your food. It shows just an appreciation to the chef. It lets them know that you're enjoying the food. So which at my house I'd go crazy for, but this is something that they're cool with. Miso soup, as we said, is actually not considered a soup like we know it here in the US. It's actually just considered a drink. So like you order a Coca-Cola, people order a miso soup. Chopsticks, as I said, have their own etiquette all the way through. Couple of things here just very quickly. Don't pass food with your chopsticks. If you're sticking them in your mouth, don't reach and give this to somebody else. Don't stick your chopsticks up in your rice, so you don't want to just stick them in there. You do not cross your chopsticks, and you do not rub your chopsticks together. Just some quick things there for any of you that go out to eat to a Japanese place. They're not going to tell you anything, but just so that you're a little bit more familiar with the customs and stuff. Seafood, something that is massive, as we said. So tempura is the most popular batter that is used for frying. It was actually adapted by the Portuguese visitors in the 1600s. So the simplest way to make a tempura batter, and I would urge you guys to do it. It's so good. It makes your food so fluffy. But basically just flour and soda water. At that point, you can just go ahead and season it as you see fit. And you want this to be super, super thin. So enough to coat the product, but you don't want it to be super thick like a pancake batter or anything. Just enough so that it still clings to the food. Something about the carbonation in the soda will actually give you this beautiful, just soft, flaky exterior when you're frying. And I would urge you guys, if you ever make this, batch make it. Do not make a giant batch of it and try to continue to just keep frying for like the next 30, 40 minutes. It's going to go flat. It's not going to have the same texture as it does initially. Just make a little bit at a time and a little bit at a time. They actually do sell pre-made tempura batters as well, and they're actually pretty good. And it's a wonderful thing. I do use them pretty often here at home, as opposed to just kind of making a simple matter. Sushi, sashimi, two different types of preparation that often get confused. So let's take a look at it very quickly. So sashimi. Sashimi is this here. Sashimi is raw fish that has been sliced thin, and oddly enough, it's actually what most people here in the US think about when they think of the word sushi. Not quite the same. This just kind of comes like this. You get a little dipping sauce on the side, and that's it. No rice, no nori, nothing like that. What you're getting with this is just that beautiful, just straight flavor of the fish that was freshly caught pretty much the night before. You'll see that in Japan. These people are at the fish markets at 2, 3 in the morning procuring the freshest fish to sell at their sushi shop. Sushi, though, is a dish that is made with vinegared rice, typically inside of the nori rolls. There are going to be a lot less ingredients than what we find here in the U.S. In the U.S. here, you have what is most popular now is the California roll. Not exactly traditional sushi, though. And then you'll see in those sushi places here in the US, they have all kinds of crazy stuff inside and outside and on top and on the plate. And it's a mess. So that is not what you're going to see when you think of traditional Japanese sushi. They're going to have just something like this. Nice and simple. You have the nigiris back here in the background, which is just the fish. Usually a little bit of wasabi on the bottom between the rice and the fish. And they'll usually brush it with a little bit of a beautiful sauce. This is typically what a sashimi plate that comes to you is going to look like. You see, it's just some tuna, some salmon, a little bit of wasabi, your dipping sauce here on the side, your chopstick, and a little bit of a garnish over there with some flowers. There's this beautiful presentation here as well. But again, just basic, simple, raw sashimi fish here. Let the ingredients speak for itself, like we talked about during the beginning of the live session. And then you have your just typical sushi rolls over here, some tuna here. We have a tempura shrimp right over here inside of this one. And this is what you're going to find more in the American version of it, where they have so many more things inside of it. And then we do have this guy right over here. Does anybody know what this is? Oops. Yep, puffer fish. It does say it on the bottom here. I kind of botched this one a little bit, but I was like, oh man. Okay, so this is the infamous dish. If you've ever watched that old school Simpsons episode with Homer, he eats the fugu, gets super sick. Not quite the case anymore. So it's a very infamous dish. A lot of people still think that it's super poisonous, that it's going to kill you. But yeah, it is a puffer fish. It's served raw, sashimi style, exactly like this one over here. This is what it is right there. And what it is really, it's one of those things that if it's not prepared properly, it could be fatal. The poison actually comes from the fish's diet. But the great thing about it is that now we're able to farm raise these on a different diet to create a non-toxic fugu. So you're still going to get all that beautiful flavor profile, but you're not going to get any of that wonderful poison that would be fantastic. So yeah, just wanted to go ahead and show you guys that. We are going to call it here though, and we'll go into the different regions in Japan in the study hall. But here we have some Japanese knives. We'll talk about that very shortly as to why the Japanese are so popular for their knives. Has something to do with the band of samurais. We have some beautiful just sushi rolls here with different colored rice here. Just look at how beautiful the presentation is on that. Over here as well. And these are all things that you guys can do with all the ingredients that you will be having this week. So just be creative. I want to see it. Again, another kind of sashimi dish here with a little bit of a sauce at the bottom, but just really simple ingredients. Just want to make sure that we emphasize that this week. It's all about the ingredients that you're using. Freshest quality, just in season, freshly caught, just beautiful stuff here. So does anybody have any questions very shortly before we do call it here?
The only questions that I did see come in were questions about if you could use real crab. Yes, definitely. If you can get your hands on some real crab legs, go for it. Flavor is going to be better. If you can, as I mentioned, sushi grade tuna or salmon also would work, but you have to go to a fishmonger to make sure that you're getting sushi grade. Otherwise, go for the imitation crab or some beautiful crab, real crab if you can get your hands on it. And last but not least, just to reinforce what Chef Jerry said, remember any missing assignment from week 1 through 9 needs to be submitted by week 10, which is this upcoming week, because we're going to be cranking it in the next, and you don't even want to be having to deal with anything that had anything to do with week 1 through 9. once week 10 and 11 hit, because then it's going to be over in a blink of an eye. So we're going to wrap this up and catch you in a minute in study hall.